Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure now to say hello to a good friend of mine, a former colleague at SiriusXM NFL Radio. Ross Tucker joins us on the PFF Wisdom of Solomon podcast with Anthony Treash, and you can find him at Ross Tucker NFL. He's currently the host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Ross, welcome to the podcast today. My podcast, not yours.
Yeah, you're a good call, Sally. I've had you on my podcast a couple times, so my pleasure to return the favor. I love everything you guys are doing over at PFF, so anytime I can get on any of the PFF podcasts, I want to.
You know, you become such a big media mogul. I got to let people also know that you are a former 7-year veteran of the National Football League, but you're doing so much across the landscape of broadcasting now and so much of data analytics. And that's what we do here at PFF. And we think it's changing the way that people are seeing the game, the way people are broadcasting the game. I think fans now are becoming more educated in terms of what you should do in situational football. I got to start by asking you, how have you used data analytics to help in your broadcast career when you go to calling games, evaluating players for draft and free agency? How has it impacted the way you do your job?
Well, yeah, Sally, it's a great topic. I'm a big believer, a big proponent. And the one thing that I tell people when they bring up the word analytics is that it's really, in my mind, just probabilities and or tendencies, right? Which you all inherently do as a player anyway. So I know when I was playing, if I was starting at left guard or right guard or center or tackle, whatever, I would look at all of the second and third and long, obvious passing downs, and I would watch the defensive end or D tackle I was going against, and I would kind of jot down, okay, there's 12 clips of 3rd and 6 or more here. On 4 of them he came with a bull rush. On 3 of them he tried an arm over. On 3 he tried an inside move. You know, like whatever it is. And I would write that down, or I would just kind of have it in my head. So much of, I think, what analytics is, in my mind, for individual players who are still playing, is just having that data accumulated for you and having it be 100% accurate. Like, okay, every obvious passing down, here's exactly what it was, Ross. It was 23 of them. And not only was it 23 of them, he was only successful with this one 4 times. The other one he was successful with 7 times, whatever the deal might be. So I point that out to start, Sally, just so that people understand it's new, but it's not new. Anything coaches ever do from a game plan standpoint, anything we ever did as a player from a football standpoint. When I was starting at center against the Baltimore Ravens, Ray Lewis knew how we lined up, that there was a high probability that it was lead weak or a G scheme to the right. So then because he knew out of that formation, we were likely to run those 2 plays, then he's watching the right guard. As soon as the right guard isn't leaned back in his stance, doesn't pull, he knows it's lead weak, and he was hitting it. And so what you really do, it's not 100%, but you're really using the numbers to make the best choice possible. And you're not always going to be right, but you're giving yourself the chance to be right more often than not. And that's really what it is to me as a player. And so now as a broadcaster, I understand that. So how it helps me is primarily twofold right now. Number one is it's very helpful when I'm doing an NFL game in particular and college games of knowing which players are really playing well. So the player grading data is invaluable because you only have so much time to really watch the tape. And even if you do go back and watch the tape, if I were really trying to grade the offensive linemen for a team, I'd have to watch every play 5 times and just watch them.
That's right.
Let alone what happened with the ball and everything else. So I look at it like PFF saves me a lot of time. A lot of time. I can still watch the previous game or the previous couple games and take down some notes of things that jump out to me without feeling like I have to jot down, every single rep by every guy, because there's 22 of them on every play, right? I mean, just
That's
think
right.
about the volume that it would entail. So my guess is that's one of the ways that really helps NFL teams, by the way, too, is just
That's right.
saving them a tremendous amount of time. That's number one. Number two, I think we all have some better understanding now when it comes to fourth down situations, when to punt, when to go for it, when to kick field goals, when to go for the touchdown, things like that. And look, I call every Army home game for CBS, and Army goes exclusively on the analytics based on fourth down decisions. And they'll tell the offensive coordinator on third down, let's say it's 3rd and 4, they'll say, hey, it's a go on 4th and 2 or less. So he knows that before he makes the third down call, and it's all based on probabilities. What's the probability that they get it or don't? If they get it, if they don't get it, what's the probability that the other team scores versus if they punt it? They've already done all of the math for you. I know John Harbaugh and the Ravens are having a lot of success with that,
Yes,
but
they are.
Army goes straight by the book, straight by the analytics when they're doing it. And so it's helped me to understand why when you score a touchdown, and you're down 15, you actually go for 2 at that point. And data like that people are like, wait, what? But when you really go through with it, you understand it a little bit better. So those are the big areas that has been very helpful to me. And I think everybody's realizing that they should be going for it more often than they were previously.
So, Ross, what do we have to do to help a lot of our former teammates, a lot of the former NFL players who are now working in broadcast media, who are now sitting back and watching games? How do we help them to embrace data analytics? Because, players can be like those old school coaches who's like, well, I go by my gut, or this is how I feel, all right? I know what my eyes tell me. How do we get them to cross over and begin to understand that we've always used the analytics? Every time the coach gave you your game plan, he told you what the probabilities were. He did the work for you. And now we just have computers doing it at a much higher level. But how do we get guys from our fraternity, okay, to bless this new science and begin to grasp it and use it every single day? How can we bring both sides together?
Yeah, I think you just got to show them. I think you have to explain it to them and show them, and maybe even explain it like I just did.
Yeah.
About it's really just tendencies and probabilities, and then explain, because it's not as complicated as you would think it is. Explain, all right, here's the deal, right? 50-50 chance you win if you go into overtime. Well, when you go for 2, it's 50-50 as well. So if you go the first time, and explain the different scenarios that could unfold, and also say, look, it doesn't have to be hard and fast. You don't have to do what the analytics say you should do, but you darn sure better be aware of it, and you darn sure should have those numbers and that math available when you're making the decision. And if you feel like, based on the way the game is flowing, the game is going, that you're getting dominated up front, you don't want to go for it on 4th and 2. We can debate whether or not that's the right move, but at least know what the data tells you before you make that 4th and 2 decision.
Yeah, I always say you got to be open your mind to new information, and you should at least be able to have the dialogue. How many coaches are we seeing when they step up to that press conference microphone and they can't explain why they did what they did in a specific situation in the game? It's just not a good look. The optics aren't great unless they can explain it, and the data will help them at least be able to help others to understand their pathway in terms of why they made that decision. Let's move on now, because I want to talk to you about Carson Wentz. I know you work with the Philadelphia Eagles. You're very close to that football team. This is a quarterback that our PFF grading system has always had one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. But over the last 2 years, since he had that injury against the Rams when he was trending towards an MVP. His numbers seem to have come down. And yesterday, or I should say on Sunday, in that game against Seattle, he struggled. 4 turnovers in the game. Just kind of what are you seeing? What is the data telling you about Carson Wentz? Because they did give him a new contract, but it appears as though he has really declined in his ability to go out and get the Eagles the wins they're craving and the wins they're looking for.
Well, and what's interesting about it, Sally, is he really has kind of gotten worse during the season. And in particular, the last 2 games against the Patriots and the Seahawks, he has missed a bunch of easy throws that it's just kind of bizarre. My issue with him previously had been at times holding the ball too long in the pocket and taking sacks that he shouldn't. And that is still there. He hasn't alleviated that part of it, but he missed a number of throws the last 2 weeks that you would expect really any NFL quarterback to make. Now, he also made some outstanding throws that a lot of NFL quarterbacks can't make, but it's like he's missing the layups. He's missing the gimmies. And as you know, Sally, you want to talk about probabilities. If you can't throw the easy 5-yard pass and get the first down to Ertz or Miles Sanders and keep the chains moving, it really hurts you because you got to be able to sustain drives. And there are a lot of excuses that we could throw out there, Sal. I mean, yesterday, they were without their 3 starting receivers on opening day. Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar. None of them played. Lane Johnson, probably their best offensive lineman, the right tackle, did not play. Brandon Brooks went out after the first series with his well-documented anxiety issues, and the right side of the offensive line really struggled. So he is dealing with some guys that are out there that probably shouldn't be. But that has nothing to do with not throwing the ball to wide open guys or missing wide open guys. And also has nothing to do with him continuing to be careless with the ball and fumbling. It's a major, major concern because the Eagles did just pay him. Yeah. He already has the health issues that are well documented. That really was the only concern that Eagles fans had about him. There was no performance risk in their mind. There was just injury risk. And now, based specifically on how he's performed the last 2 weeks, now there's also some legitimate performance risk.
Yeah, I'm going to just kind of give you some idea of how we graded the pass rush for Seattle going up against the Eagles' offensive line in Sunday's game and how Carson Wentz struggled as a result. 28 pressures, 6 hits on the quarterback by the Seahawks defense, 17 hurries, okay, and multiple turnovers, as we said, by Carson Wentz. 5 in all by the Eagles offense, 4 credited to Carson Wentz, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, and 5 times there were unblocked pressure. Now, let's go to the tweet with Trey Thomas, former offensive tackle by the Philadelphia Eagles. He tweeted in game a couple of pictures of the right tackle, Andre Dillard, who was filling in for Lane Johnson, as you mentioned. And this stance really does kind of indicate, as you well know, you played offensive line. One stance showed that they were running the ball, clearly. The other stance, he was almost in his pass stance set even before the snap of the ball, which indicates pass. Just kind of give me your take on the tweet and if Seattle was able to use it as an indicator, which made the day even worse for Carson Wentz.
Well, he certainly had his feet more balanced when he was running than he did when it was a pass. I mean, his right foot was further back when it was a pass, and his feet were closer to even when it was a run. And Trey Thomas noticed that. I don't know when the Seahawks were able to notice that. I do know this. There are tendencies like that, Sally. You pick up on things. Guys maybe a little bit wider, or maybe they're a little tighter. That means they're pinching, whatever the case may be. And I think the big issue there is he's been a left tackle going back to junior high, high school, Washington State. Even through training camp in this season, they've only trained him at left tackle. Now, with 1 week's notice, they put him at right tackle, and they put him out there. And clearly, he's not comfortable yet. He's not comfortable in his stance. He's not in a good spot. And it showed. It showed because he had to tell. He had a giveaway. And whether or not those guys noticed it consciously or subconsciously, meaning the Seattle defense, I think is one of the reasons perhaps why he ended up being benched at halftime and they put Halapalati Vaitai in.
Wow, yeah, and it just came apart because I like Carson Wentz. We here at PFF, we have him graded highly. He's a guy that creates big-time throws, normally playing much better than he has over the last couple of weeks. But you know this, to kind of speak from your experience, having played offensive line in the National Football League, when the quarterback gets hit early and often in games, it tends to snowball on him from there. How can Doug Peterson not only help his quarterback, Carson Wentz, how can he help this football team? Because there's still only one game out of first place in the NFC East.
Well, and now they play the Dolphins. Yep. They play the Giants twice. They play the Redskins. None of those teams have more than 2 wins, and they play all of them. And then they host the Dallas Cowboys, which figures to probably be the NFC East championship game at this point. You can help them a couple different ways. Obviously, if they really got the run game going, that would be nice. It's not good that Jordan Howard has missed the last few games with what they're calling a stinger. That's problematic because it's hurt the running game significantly. And I'm surprised they haven't been able to do a better job. Now, they've done it a little bit, but still haven't done a better job of just feeding the tight ends and running backs. For years when Andy Reid was in Philadelphia, they didn't really have great receivers. And the passing game went through Brian Westbrook and Chad Lewis and the tight ends and the running backs. And that's really where this Eagles offense needs to go right now. And I think they're trying to, but Wentz missed some easy throws to running backs that could have gotten them going and could have kept the chain going. He threw it behind Zach Ertz. He misses a lot of short intermediate passes that really hard to play quarterback that way.
Well, Ross, hey, I don't want to keep you. You've done a great job. Keep up the great work as you expand your broadcasting and media horizons. We want to thank you for taking the time to join us here on the PFF Wisdom of Solomon podcast with Anthony Treash. We want to thank you and have a great day.
Absolutely, Sally. Thank you for having me, and thanks, everybody, for checking out all the podcasts I have for you over at rosstucker.com. Really appreciate it.
You're the best, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, we want to thank Ross Tucker for joining us here on the PFF Wisdom of Solomon podcast with young Anthony Treash. And that's where we'll pick it up. First of all, how you doing this week, Anthony?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, staying very busy, with the holidays coming up. But yeah, a lot of fun.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Just going back home, spending some time with the family, but watching football, of course.
There you go. Yeah. Speaking of football, we've got to talk about the Monday night game and that spectacular show out in Los Angeles by one Lamar Jackson. He's doing things historically that we just have not seen done at the quarterback position as a runner, as a thrower. This is a guy that can make the plays in the pocket. You and I have kind of talked about that before. But first of all, let's kind of talk about it from the data's perspective. What does the numbers show in terms of what Lamar Jackson is doing? Because we know what our eyes tells us, he's doing something very special.
Yeah, this guy is heating up. Since week 6, the Monday night game with that grade incorporated, right now he's sitting at a 95.2 grade since week 6. That's insane.
Wow,
that's
incredible.
Above
right.
any quarterback so far. He has been lighting up, and it's hard to stop this guy. And as you said, this guy can do anything, and he is a pocket passer as well. Most guys are criticizing him. Well, he's got inaccuracy issues inside the pocket, and his accuracy it's kind of dwindled off in recent weeks inside the pocket, but he's still producing big-time plays, and he's finding that open receiver for that positively graded play. You know, you look at it, I mean, last week I tweeted out, he's our second highest graded quarterback from passing inside the pocket.
That's right.
So, I mean, you can't disrespect anything this guy's doing, and it's pretty hard to stop any phase.
What he did in that Monday night game against a good Rams defense. I mean, the Rams have some good players at every level of the defense. Corey Littleton at the linebacker position. We all know about what this defensive line can get done, right? And Aaron Donald. And then you've got a Jalen Ramsey on the back end in the secondary. They've got good players all over this defense. So how is it that Lamar Jackson can come out in this game and take the Baltimore Ravens offense down the field for touchdowns on 6 consecutive possessions? 4 in the first half, and then they began the second half 2 more times. Go right down the field, and they score touchdowns on 6 straight possessions.
Yeah, I mean, the pass rush got to him a couple times, but that's about it.
That's
more
it.
often than not, Lamar torched him. And that, I mean, I think that speaks volumes as to defenses have no idea what to expect from this Greg Roman offense. They don't know what's coming, any formation they're at. They don't know what the play is. And I think that, I mean, this offense is elite and one of the best I've seen in recent memory. It's just hard to stop a dual threat guy that can take off inside the pocket. And also, I mean, it's really opening up the running game, too, for Mark Ingram. I mean, we've speaked about it in recent weeks and previous weeks that they're one of the most, best teams as far as an efficiency standpoint when rushing the ball in EPA per play. And last night, or Monday night rather, they were talking about on the broadcast how John Harbaugh would use his expected points added, a metric that we have here.
I loved it, absolutely.
I know, and their analytics guy would tell him, hey, I mean, this play often not, you should go for it here on 4th down, or this play will work here just as far as the numbers go. So, I mean, this offense is quite absurd, and I think they're, kind of marching their way to a Super Bowl appearance.
So I know we give Harbaugh a lot of credit because he is the head coach. He does sort of push all the right buttons going for it on 4th down and giving his team excellent opportunities to win. How does Greg Roman factor in this? Because he's the guy that this offseason went scouring the land for the best system, the best plays, the best offense to feature Lamar Jackson in terms of his ability to throw it and run it, and it's worked to perfection.
I mean, for sure. I mean, from the way it sounds, they completely scrapped 2018's playbook.
That's
they
right.
threw it in the trash and said, we're starting over.
That's right.
And it's, I mean, every single thing we've seen has been, insanely good. And if they keep doing this, I mean, they're going to be the new dynasty. I mean, John Harbaugh said it to Lamar on the sideline. Kids are going to be wearing number 8 for years to come. I mean, it's true the way this guy's playing. I mean, he's been better than guys like Patrick Mahomes. He's been the best. So, I mean, he is the MVP frontrunner at this point in time. And they're just getting really, really creative in their offensive formations, running a lot of pistol, especially on those plays, teams have no idea what's coming. It could be, a quarterback draw, or he could launch it deep downfield. And I really liked in that Monday night game how they really used Marquise Brown, Willie Snead, and the rookie Boykin. I mean, they really kind of elevated their wide receiver unit as opposed to in weeks prior.
That's right.
It was the other way around.
It was all through the tight ends, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was really happy with the way they really incorporated those guys. And I think if you give Marquise Brown time to kind of develop more as a rookie, I think he can become one of the league's top wide receivers with Lamar Jackson.
Well, this offense is definitely hot. Lamar Jackson, 4 touchdown passes, 2 consecutive weeks. He had 5 touchdown passes in 2 games so far this year. One of the most incredible things. Very difficult to do that once in the season, and now to do it twice. He's now tied with 24 touchdown passes, tied with Russell Wilson for the most touchdown passes so far this season, but he has 30 on the year. I mean, this guy his production is off the charts. And when you look at the Ravens, they've now won 5 consecutive games by 14 points or more. So this Greg Roman offense is cooking, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
For sure. I think the only team that really could stop them in the AFC is the New England Patriots, who they've already beat by double digits. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think Bill Belichick's going to really study this guy because I think they'll end up facing each other in the playoffs. I think he's going to study this offense and try to figure it out. But, I mean, can he figure this offense out? Do you think he'll be able to dissect Lamar Jackson and Greg Roman to figure out what's coming? Or do you think, is it just going to be how it is?
I think here's what you have to do. I think he'll figure it out. Because maybe you're not going to stop him, but you don't want to give him the explosive runs, right? So you have Jamie Collins as a spy. In fact, I would go with a bare front. That's 3 interior linemen, and I would set my ends wide. And then I would have 1 linebacker spy at the next level. And then you cannot play man-to-man coverage. In fact, I don't even know that these wide receivers would precipitate that you would have to play man-to-man coverage. If you're playing man-to-man coverage in your secondary, that means the defensive backs and the defenders at the second level of your defense, they have their backs turned to Lamar Jackson. So what happens if Lamar Jackson takes off and run and breaks through that wave, that first wave of defensive linemen and linebackers, and your defensive backs have their back turned to him? He's just going to run until he hits his head on the goalpost and standing in the end zone for a touchdown. Your secondary members have to play zone. The zone has to be one that what we call you morph and you move the zone coverage to what we call pattern read with the routes the receivers are running. So it's almost like a hybrid man. You're playing zone with eyes back in at the quarterback. Every 11 defender, all 11 defenders, I should say, should keep their eyes on Lamar Jackson. Because when he takes off to run, everybody needs to come smoking. That's how you're going to eliminate at least the explosive plays. You're going to have to force him to turn it over at least twice in a game. If you can do those things, I'm not saying you're going to stop him, but you will control him, and you won't be looking at these big explosive runs. You force the quarterback and the coordinator to become more frustrated because they're used to these explosive plays. Everybody I know on offense who have ever lived, if they become accustomed to getting explosive plays, yards by the chunks, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards. When that doesn't come as easy, they get frustrated. They start to bicker amongst one another. And what happens when they put the ball on the ground? You got to get it. That's the only thing you can do when an offense is rolling like this. Bill Belichick will not play man-to-man coverage against this offense. He has to play zone. I think he understands that. I think they'll be more prepared second time around.
I think that was very well put. NFL teams take notice. I mean, that's an elite game plan right there. And I mean, what really stands out to me about Lamar is that as opposed to last season, I mean, they could stop the run, and that would really hurt him just because he would stand in the pocket, and then he would take off immediately. Right. If his first read wasn't there, he was gone. As opposed to this year, he's very good in poise.
He's very poised in the pocket.
Exactly, and I think that's what really took him to the next level when he really worked on that this offseason.
And that's why I'm playing zone coverage, because I'm going to force him to have to do more reading. For quarterbacks, man coverage, there's nothing to read. Once they're in man coverage, you just go into the guy. You're already predetermining who's my guy that I think can get open. All right. The tight ends, I think, can get open against their linebackers. My running backs, their linebackers can't. Their quarterbacks can predetermine where they want to go with the ball when they're facing man coverage. When it's zone coverage, zones move. You can fool quarterbacks with zone coverage. That's what you're going to get from Belichick. All the other coordinators, I don't know. I think they'll do exactly what the Rams did. I respect your Wade Phillips, but you got to do better than that. You cannot let an offense go down the field 6 straight possessions, not kick field goals, but score touchdowns. All right, let's move along because I want to also talk about some of the teams because we're at that point as you get around Thanksgiving and the holidays. It's playoff time. You either are making a move toward the playoffs or your sort of stock is down. You're going the other way. And I want to talk about some of those teams that I think are going the other way. Let's start with the Monday night game. The Rams are going the other way. If you own stock in the Rams, you might want to sell. Simply because Jared Goff is not the Jared Goff that took this team to a Super Bowl 1 year ago. Todd Gurley is not the Todd Gurley that the Rams could ride and run into a Super Bowl 1 year ago. This defense isn't even the same that it was 1 year ago, as evident by 6 straight touchdowns on 6 straight possessions against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm concerned about the Rams because in the NFC, there's 8 teams vying for 6 spots. Rams, odd man out. Your thoughts?
I agree. And I mean, they're in a very tough spot as far as the long-term future goes because they really risked everything by trading for Jalen Ramsey. They were prepared to win now. They haven't been winning now, and Jalen Ramsey hasn't even been playing that well.
Yep.
Troy Hill, I think, has been the best cornerback on this roster. I mean, he's been one of our highest graded cornerbacks on the roster. I think he should get more credit than Jalen Ramsey is. You know, as you said, the defense hasn't been as good. They have Aaron Donald, who's been great. Corey Littleton's been great in coverage. But outside of that, in Troy Hill, it's been bad. And, I mean, even on the offensive side of the ball, Jared Goff has taken a turn for the worse, especially from a clean pocket. Wow. Nobody has more turnover-worthy plays from a clean pocket than Jared Goff. He just hasn't been the same quarterback. And I kind of, in that Monday night game, you kind of seemed like he kind of got comfortable, and he kind of felt like he could start calling the offense as opposed to Sean McVay.
Sean McVay was not happy.
Yeah, there was a few times
he was
straight
not
up
happy.
looked at him and he said, "What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Hey, that's not we don't need to be running that right now." I mean,
That's right.
It seemed like
called a timeout.
Exactly.
When he saw him check to one play, he was like, "I'm not letting you." He called a timeout and then called him over to the sideline. And Sean McVay, if looks could kill, I'm telling you, he was hot. And so, yeah, I'm not so sure what's going on with Jared Goff. I'm not so sure he's going to be able to play himself out of this funk. I'm hoping he does, but he's in a division in the NFC West with Russell Wilson and Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan. 49ers. Yeah, and Kyler Murray. Okay, but in terms of just teams getting to the playoffs, I don't know that the Rams can even make it out of their division with the 49ers sitting there at 10-1 and the Seahawks sitting there at 9-2. And the Rams just fell, to 6-5? Boy, that playoff lamp, it's flickering right now.
For sure. And I mean, going back to that long-term future thing, Seattle, as long as Russell Wilson's under center, they're going to be
a contender.
Contention.
That's
exactly.
Right. That's right.
Kyle Shanahan and that offense, and if this defense can they're going to regress next year. There's no doubt about that because they've been playing lights out this year. So if they can stay good with Kyle Shanahan, they're going to be a contender for years to come. The Arizona Cardinals, their stock is trending up. They have Kyler Murray. They've been a completely different team. He has really shown very good, poise and when he's under pressure on longer developing plays. He's been a great deep passer, not to mention. Everything else around him has not been good. So, they can only get better from there. Jared Goff and the Los Angeles Rams, they've been trending down, as you said. He just really hasn't been as good as we saw last season. And, Jalen Ramsey, he's really got to prove the worth he got.
Yeah, he's got to step it up. There's no doubt about it. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. They're now 4-7. That was a team that they were in the playoffs 1 year ago. We thought they were going back because they have a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Phillip Rivers. They have a stellar defense, even though they had a lot of injuries on that defensive side of the ball. This is a team that we expected so much more. Now we're hearing that Phillip Rivers may not even be back in 2020, that this team is prepared possibly to move on as his contract expires at the end of 2019. And over the last 2 games, 7 interceptions over the last 2 games, most of any quarterback in the National Football League. He had 7 interceptions in their first 8 games of the season. Now he's had 7 in their last 2. His 14 interceptions, I think, are the second most, just behind one, Jameis Winston. And this team is headed in the other direction. I see them as a team that's stocked down, and the bubble could burst on their playoff hopes. In fact, I think it already has.
Yeah, and those 7 interceptions, 4 of them was when he was targeting Keenan Allen. It just kind of seems like those 2 specifically just really haven't been on the same page this year. And I will say about Phillip Rivers is that he's still been making very good throws that we have seen from him from the past. He's tied with Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson in big-time throws. He's number 5 in that. But what's killing him is he's just not been good as far as limiting mistakes.
That's right.
He has the second most turnover-worthy plays in general, tied with Daniel Jones. And when he's throwing at
With who? With who?
Daniel Jones.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
And most of Daniel Jones' turnover-worthy plays are almost caused inside the pocket. When you're filtering to just his throws at or beyond the sticks, no one has more turnover-worthy plays. It's not even really close when it comes to Phillip Rivers. It's just he's putting the ball in harm's way far too often, and you can kind of see that when quarterbacks are getting older, and he's regressing in that regard.
16 years in the National Football League, Hall of Fame career. Sometimes it comes to an end very slowly. You can see a gradual decline. And sometimes it just hits you in the face, and you say, wow, it's time to move on. Both Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, and we can throw in Ben Roethlisberger because they all came out the same year back in 2004, now 16 years later. All three of them are kind of not on the top of their game. Eli lost his starting job this year. We could see the decline in Phillip Rivers' play, and the elbow just wore out for poor Ben Roethlisberger. What was it, week 1, week 2, I believe? And now he's out for the season. He expects to come back in 2020, but that remains to be seen. The other team, the Colts, at 6-5, they've lost 3 of their last 4. And where we thought this team with Jacoby Brissett and with Frank Wright and that defense, we thought, and that offensive line, that's stellar, we thought they would be able to weather the storm and win that division. But they lost one to the Houston Texans, and for me, this offense, they're not able to produce enough explosive plays on the offensive side of the ball. In fact, their explosive plays, they're struggling. I think they're teams like the Broncos, the Bengals, the Giants, and the Cardinals, okay, all have more explosive plays than the Indianapolis Colts. And those are teams who don't even have good offenses.
Exactly. And I mean, it wasn't just about a month ago when Jacoby Brissett was getting MVP talk,
That's
MVP
right.
hype
That's
from
right.
other people in the media. And I think now we're all on the same page. He's not the guy. I think they still need to look at improving that position. Right now, he's 26 of 32 quarterbacks in PFF grade, 61.5 passing grade. It pretty much replicates what we saw in the past. We expected this. He's been doing the same thing we saw from him before, and he has the worst grade from a clean pocket by far, which is the most predictive metric here at PFF as far as stability goes. And he's bottom 10 when throwing downfield. And he has a low average depth of target just because I think this Colts offense, and he kind of recognized they can't rely on the deep ball like they did with Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was a phenomenal deep passer.
He was great. That's
great
right.
deep passer. They kind of have to completely change that offense in that regard. He's 25th in average depth of target, but 11th in adjusted completion percentage. So I think that's where a lot of people kind of get dismayed by Jacoby Brissett. His receivers are kind of helping him out at times. I just really don't think he's the guy. And, you know, it was kind of frustrating.
We thought he was.
Yeah, they thought he was. And, you know, going back to that Miami loss, I mean,
That was bad.
Yeah, Brian Hoyer, he kind of lost him that game. Jacoby Brissett, I feel like if he was in there, he would have won him that game. But again, he is a low-end starter, and I think he's a high-end backup, though. I think he's a high-end backup, a low-end starter, and I think they need to keep trying to develop that position.
Really good point. 30th in passing yards are the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, just ahead of the Chicago Bears and the Washington Redskins. So that goes to show you just how bad this offense is in terms of their lack of explosive plays. One more team that I think is trending down because we talked about it earlier in the podcast with Ross Tucker is the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 5-6, but they're still in it. One game behind the Dallas Cowboys. Their record, their schedule looks favorable. However, the offensive line is scaring me. I know Lane Johnson was out last week in that loss to Seattle, but this offensive line is allowing 4th most pressures so far this year. The offensive line has allowed the 4th most hurries of any offensive line in terms of quarterback pressure, and they allow the 2nd most hits on the quarterback. It's one of those offensive lines. This is over the last 2 weeks, that is. They have seemed to have gone backwards in terms of their ability to protect Carson Wentz, and he has struggled also over the last 2 weeks. These 2 games came against the Patriots and the Seahawks, where the offensive line has stepped backwards, and so has the quarterback.
Yeah, and I really think the success of the Eagles team is really going to boil down to Carson Wentz. And, we know the receiving unit's been terrible this year. I don't think we expect them to get much better than what they're at. Same with the coverage unit. You know, we don't really have high expectations for them, but Carson Wentz, on the other hand, when you see all their close games, it's because, or their close games or when they win, it's because Carson Wentz is playing well. And when they get blown out in bad, embarrassing fashions, it's because he's playing bad.
Yeah.
And you look at weeks 1 through 6 when they were a little bit more successful. Wentz was our 2nd highest graded quarterback. Weeks 7 through 12, he was 30th of 32. That's not what you want to see out of a guy like Carson Wentz. So, it's really going to come down to, can this guy play good? And I think if he continues, gets back to that first 6-week form over this final stretch, I think they could, kind of rival the Cowboys. But, at the end of the day, it's just not looking good based off what we've seen over the last few weeks.
5th most drops in terms of their wide receiving core than any other team in the National Football League. So they got to do a better job of helping Carson Wentz. So now let's move on, and let's talk about something I know is near and dear to you because you've been doing a report and talking a little bit about rookies in terms of who's doing well and who's not doing well. We're talking about high draft picks as rookies, and teams are counting on some of these guys. So kind of help us to understand what you've been working on here.
Yeah, so doing a rookie stock report, stock up, stock down on some guys. And I got to say that the rookie who's trending up most of any other is Terry McLaurin. And,
that's right.
I mean,
wide receiver for the Washington Redskins.
Yes, exactly. And he was insane against Darius Slay on Sunday. I mean, it kind of frustrated me a little bit because Dwayne Haskins missed him on a few routes. And I came in Monday morning, and Austin Gale, one of our analysts here, first thing he said to me coming, he's like, dude, you got to watch Terry McLaurin's routes. Watch every single route and watch him against Darius Slay. When he wasn't targeted, he was absurd. So I was like, okay, I'll watch him. And I mean, I'm telling you, watch those routes. I mean, it was insane how good this guy is.
He's a polished route runner. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and he has been insane on vertical routes. The vertical route tree is his route tree. I mean, he is our highest grade receiver on targets at or beyond the sticks as well. Yeah. So I mean, the Washington Redskins, they've never been a good deep passing team, never been an explosive passing team. Yeah. And while the quarterback, it falls on both sides, quarterback and receiver. The quarterback position's still kind of in question right now. They're still working out some things. But at wide receiver, they found their guy in Terry McLaurin. This guy's going to have a bright, bright future in the NFL.
So let's talk about A.J. Brown, because he was a wide receiver coming out. Everyone looked at Metcalf and thought that he was the guy. But I always liked A.J. Brown. Is he starting to now become a player there with the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, I mean, Week 12, PFF Team of the Week honors, 91.4 PFF grade. Elite
wow,
PFF grade.
That's high.
And I mean, his route running at 225 pounds is insane. This guy is a monster to tackle, and he's been great after the catch. You can't bring him down. He has the 7th most broken tackles with 9 after the catch, and is first in yards after catch per reception by over a yard at 8.7.
Wow.
So this guy's been getting the job done in that regard, and has been a very good downfield threat for him, too. He's top 20 in PFF grade on throws of 10-plus yards, first in yards after catch, not surprisingly, and 10th in passer rating when generated on those. And he has really kind of, what I've noticed with him is that when Ryan Tannehill's at quarterback, he's been playing pretty good.
That's right.
I will say he's been pretty good. Since he became the starter, he has been very good in this Titans offense. 16th in PFF grade right now for A.J. Brown, and 7th in yards per route run. He's getting a lot more targets with him. And I think, personally, he's flat out better than Corey Davis. And I think with Ryan Tannehill, we can see that. Marcus Mariota didn't really give him enough targets. Yeah. He targeted Humphreys and Corey Davis far more. I think A.J. Brown's the best receiver on this team.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, very polished route runner, big body guy who can win against contested catches. But as you said, he can make it down the field as well. How about Nick Bosa? Because he stands out every time you watch him play. You say, this guy can't be a rookie. But yes, he is a rookie.
Yeah, and you might be saying, like, how is this guy trending up? He was the 2nd overall pick. And I will say, I mean, we knew he was going to be good. This guy's been elite. He's been one of the best pass rushers in the NFL this season. I mean, he has the highest win rate we have ever seen from a rookie through Week 12. I mean, going back to 2006. I mean, that's how good this guy's been. I mean, 2nd was his brother Joey Bosa, so that's a good family tree. But, I mean, right now, he is 3rd in overall PFF grade behind elite guys like T.J. Watt and Khalil Mack. I mean, he's better than some of the best in the NFL, and he has the best pressure rate in the NFL right now.
Wow.
I mean, he's been abusing guys, and I think, this 49ers defense, I mean, they're really using him to kind of leading him up to succeed.
That's
and I think, Sam Monson actually pointed this out last week, and I was kind of looking forward to him versus David Bakhtiari. But he kind of lined up on the opposite side of the line. Brian Bulaga went down, and they kind of abused the backup.
Bulaga made sure he got out of the game early.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to stop this guy. So while we knew he was going to be good, this guy went from pretty good, and we knew he was going to be a consistently good player to an elite level prospect, and I think he's going to be one of the best pass rushers in the NFL for the next
all that
generation.
While not even playing his final year at Ohio State. Exactly. I mean, the guy is incredible. Tell me about a couple of these rookies on the defensive side of the ball for the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, Max Crosby, he got off to a slow start, but since Week 8, he's been pretty good. 19th in pass rush grade and 3rd in pressures generated with 26. And, we here at PFF, we also grade college too. We did that over the last few years. And we would have had him slotted at 30 picks sooner than he was actually taking at, because he played incredibly well at Eastern Michigan. In 90.5 PFF grade in 2017, followed that up with a very good 88.2 in 2018. And those 2 years combined for 112 pressures, 40 sacks and hits, and 9 forced fumbles.
He brings it.
Exactly. I mean, I think the Oakland Raiders really got a steal in Max Crosby in the later rounds. And it it's kind of rough to see because they had all these first-round picks.
Yeah.
And they I'm not sure if they really spent those wisely. You know, after the first round, they had a good draft.
Yes.
The first round, I'm kind of hesitant to say they had a good first round just because they took Cleveland Farrell very high in the draft. I mean, no one saw this coming. We didn't see this coming. We wouldn't have touched Cleveland Farrell at that pick, especially when some of the guys that were available, like Josh Allen.
That's right.
You know, he has a 53.2 overall grade so far. Missed 7 tackles on 29 attempts. That's not good. I mean, he's not been generating pressure and not winning on a pass rush or play-to-play basis, both at 8% as far as generating that rate. And, you know, I was on Twitter a few weeks ago and I saw John Gruden. He kind of took a shot, you know, at Cleveland Farrell and what we had to say about him.
Oh, okay. What did he say?
Just because he said, you know, he's been lining up, you know, if they focused on the numbers, football focused, that they would kind of see that he's been lining up inside more. And he did a little bit, you know, and he's actually been better when he's lined up outside the tackle.
Yeah.
But that's still at a 62.4
That's right.
pass rush
And he's
grade.
still a high enough draft pick where he should be able to play inside and out.
Exactly. And then, you know, that's no disrespect to him because I mean, we love John Gruden. We almost consider him a Coach of the Year candidate. He has a great offensive scheme. Just Cleveland Farrell, I mean, I think he just wasn't quite ready to be thrown in there.
That's
right. I mean, I'm not giving up hope on the guy because we still saw him.
He's still a good player.
Yeah, he's still a very good player, but I think Max Crosby is better at this point.
Yeah, but you're still going stock down on Cleveland Farrell.
Yeah, for sure.
How about Rashawn Gary?
Yeah, and this pick was it was a stretch. I mean, everyone was hyping up Rashawn Gary. He's taken 12th overall. We had him at pick 48. We were not as high. We didn't think he was the best pass rusher at Michigan. We thought Chase Winovich was better. He has been better. I mean, Rashawn Gary right now on 173 snaps has a 56.5 grade.
Wow.
Winning just 11% of the time. And he's kind of getting lost in the shuffle with Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith there. And so
he should be able to make more plays playing with those guys on the field, though.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people expected Rashawn Gary to be the best pass rusher on this team, and he isn't. He's not even close.
No.
And I think they really could have got someone like Brian Burns possibly at that spot. And
I like Brian Burns.
Yeah, they would have been in a far better position if they would have taken a guy like that.
Yeah. So tell me about Noah Fant, because I like Noah Fant, tight end with the Denver Broncos, but yet he's on your stock down list?
Yeah, and, you know, he's freakishly athletic.
Yes,
there's no doubt about it.
absolutely.
That's what got him drafted in the first round. But we had him as the 43rd prospect coming out. But we loved his athleticism, but his hands, I mean, his hands were bad. He had 11 drops on 80 catchable targets in college, and that's what really kind of gave us cause for concern. And we're kind of seeing the same thing in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's caught just over 80% of his catchable targets, just caught 4 of 12 contested targets at that, and generating an 86.7 passer rating. And that's even including that big explosive play he had a few weeks ago against the Browns where we saw that athleticism, you know. Mm-hmm. We've seen flashes of it, but there's just been a few instances where I'm like, dude, come on.
To catch the ball.
Exactly. And I'm telling you, go back to when they played the Tennessee Titans early in the third quarter. Mm-hmm. You know, he got a deep pass attempt from Joe Flacco. The ball tracking was horrendous.
Wow.
I mean, he tried to catch the ball with his back. It was not
That's
good.
not good, yeah.
It resulted in an interception. And even he had a bad forced fumble when they played the Packers, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
Jair Alexander just took it out of his hands.
That's
I mean,
right.
he just literally took it out of his hands. So we just really haven't seen Noah Fant produce at a good level.
Rookie tight end, he's got to continue to get better. He'll have a whole offseason to continue to work on refining those skills. But Quinnen Williams was taken high in the draft. For him to be on the stock down list for rookies, is he not performing well for the Jets?
I know. I mean, I had really high hopes for Quinnen Williams. I loved the guy. He was probably my favorite prospect coming out of the draft, just because what we saw from him at Alabama was unlike anything we've ever seen. This is before Chase Young this year, so we're not including that. But before this year, he had the highest PFF grade we've ever seen from a college player. I mean, he was generating pressure at an absurd rate, and he was just eating offensive lines, getting and winning on a consistent rate. And this year, he's been pretty good against the run, 70.5 run defensive grade. But it's just the pass rush, what we thought he'd thrive in and really help the New York Jets, just really has not been there. 57.2 grade, just a 4.7% pressure rate.
Yeah.
4.7%, that's not good. 7.3% win rate at that, too. So he's just not winning enough like we thought he would. And, you know, I mean, he can only get better from here. And if his college play will tell us anything, I think he will continue to get better. But I just think it's kind of a culture shock, as you may say.
Yeah. And, well, he's got to get better. He's got to play better. And good list, though. I like the names on this list. It gives us an opportunity to check in with some of the rookies who were drafted very high and kind of see how they might be doing with their respective teams. All right, let's wrap it up by just kind of having a conversation about the Dallas Cowboys dilemma, because Jerry Jones has concerns about his coaches. And most importantly, he's got concerns about his coach being able to, in these critical moments in games, okay, and Coach Jason Garrett to be able to win and make great decisions on fourth down or on special teams. And when you play the New England Patriots, because from Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, from his lips, he said, you expect to get out coached. You expect for them to have an event. How does an owner go into a game expecting to be out coached? And then when the game's over, he comes out and said, yeah, we were out coached.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough. But, I mean, you have to look at his team as a whole, and they're kind of in a rough spot as far as the long-term future goes, because they have three pretty big impending free agents: Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Byron Jones. And they paid a lot of guys, too, and they're starting to kind of run out of money in that regard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but even with Dak Prescott, he's having a career year this season. He's been pretty lights out from a clean pocket going to his first read. So I think Jerry kind of sees that and is kind of frustrated with seeing how good Dak Prescott has been and thinking this team should be better, and I think they really kind of should be.
And going into that game, they were the league's #1 ranked offense. In fact, Dak Prescott is putting up record numbers. This offense is set to be the best offense in terms of total yards, scoring, point scoring, touchdowns, everything. In terms of the best offense in Dallas Cowboy franchise history. And so to say that we're being out-coached, here's what he was talking about. Two specific situations, okay? Fourth down play, third quarter, the score is 13-6 Patriots, okay? So they're down, okay? And so 4th and 7, instead of going for it, they go for the field goal. And now it's 13-9. They're down by 4 points. They were down by 7. To me, I mean, help me with the math there. If you kick a field goal and you're down by 4, did it do you any good?
No, I mean, I think there was some questionable decision-making in this game specifically. And even, like, with the weather, he needed to really kind of be on point with his decision-making in that regard. Just
That's
because,
right.
Dak Prescott, he could not throw the ball effectively, in that game. Just even Troy Aikman said it himself. I mean, it's hard to, play in those conditions. You saw it with Tom Brady as well. So it was very reliant on, the play calling as well as, whether or not you should go for it in certain situations. So I think that kind of infuriated Jerry just a little bit more as expected. But this defense didn't really, play up to expectations in that game either.
No, it was. I mean, that's one where the argument was, should they go ahead and kick the field goal, which they did. That made it 13-9. Again, they're down by 4 points. If you go for it on 4th and 7 from the New England Patriots 11-yard line, you got to go for it, because the field goal really does you no good, because you still need a touchdown to win the game. Whereas if you go for it and don't get it, you're still going to need a touchdown to tie the game. Right. So you might as well go for the touchdown there, because to me the field goal and you closing within 4 points does you no good, because if you get the ball back, a field goal isn't going to get it for you. You're going to have to score a touchdown. So if you got to score a touchdown anyway, go ahead and score it now, okay? And if you don't, guess what? The Patriots are pinned inside their own 10-yard line. So that's what the math says. And I think even Jerry Jones looked at it and said, yeah, we should have done something different. That's why he's saying we were out-coached. Here's another reason why he's saying they were out-coached. Okay, with about 52 seconds left at the end of the third quarter, they're about to go into it's 4th down and 13, okay? Cowboys are on their own 40-yard line. Imagine this. And so they're lining up to punt. Patriots special teams come out, and they don't put anyone back to field the punt. In fact, they don't even cover the gunner for the Cowboys, who's out there wide open by himself. I played on special teams in the NFL. Just about every team I've ever been on, we had an alert call that if they don't cover the gunners, you snap the ball to the punter, and he's just going to throw it out there, okay, because he's wide open. Now, not only was he open, they had no one back there to field the punt. The guy would have ran for a touchdown on the play. I'm telling you, he's wide open. Instead, the Cowboys are paralyzed. They do nothing. They don't even snap the ball to the punter. They get a delay of game penalty, which is the worst thing you could have done. So they were not prepared. They weren't alert. Okay? They get the delay of game penalty. By the time they did punt it on the next play, it ended up being like a 22-yard net gain because of they had a couple of penalties there, and the Patriots would get the ball at their own 38-yard line. So the ball really went from the Cowboys 40 to the Patriots 40. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean,
it was really bad in terms of game management. If you're talking about just trying to manage ball possession in terms of where you get it on the field, it was very poor.
Yeah, and you don't want to do it against the New England Patriots because they're going to see that and they're going to take advantage of that. Better than any other team in the NFL. You might be able to get away with that when you're playing some of the lower tier teams, but you can't do that against the Patriots. They had every opportunity to win this game. Every opportunity.
Yeah.
And, they kind of, Tom Brady, he couldn't move the ball downfield because of the weather. He could not do it. So, I mean, they kind of really.
Cowboys' defense was playing really well against Tom Brady.
Yeah, and I kind of blame that also on the receivers too. The receivers didn't really do their part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the defense, some played well, some didn't. I will say that, but I do say they could have won that game. They very easily could have.
Cowboys failed to exploit the Patriots' exposure on that play. The Patriots were exposed. You could tell they were a little confused. They weren't going to put a man back to field the punt. Maybe they did it to kind of confuse the Cowboys. If they did, it worked because the Cowboys, they were very confused. But the fact that the Patriots didn't defend against the gunner, who's almost like a wide receiver on a punt team, you've got to cover that guy up, even if you don't have someone back to field the punt.
It's textbook.
That's right. The Cowboys failed to capitalize on a grand opportunity to not only keep the ball and convert and get a first down on what was, 4th and 13, they could have had a touchdown on the play.
Exactly. I think, we talked about John Harbaugh having an analytics guy in his ear.
Yeah.
I think the Cowboys should consider long and hard about having that.
Big games where the talent is even for both teams, you need coaches to give you an advantage. The Patriots clearly have that. They have a coach that can give them an advantage. The 49ers clearly have that in a Kyle Shanahan, who can give his offense an advantage. He's good for at least 4 to 7 points, Kyle Shanahan is. He designs great plays. He calls great plays. He helps the offense to manufacture yards to get the ball into the end zone. Jason Garrett, I'm trying to figure out where you're helping your team right now. I'm just telling you. In fact, don't take my word for it. Take the owners. Take Jerry Jones's word for it. He's trying to figure out how his coaches is helping him win games. In fact, I think he said that the coaches weren't up to the task in that loss to the New England Patriots. Well, it's been a good show. Yeah. It's been good.
Been fun.
He's Anthony Treash. I'm Solomon Wilcots. This has been another edition of the PFF Wisdom of Solomon podcast with Anthony Treash. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to join us again next week.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.